joined now by Brent Sobleski. He is an NFL analyst for Bleacher Report. Brent, how are we doing this morning?
Doing well and feeling like my world's been turned upside down after this weekend's play.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, well, tell us where to start then. What's confounding you the most?
A little bit of everything, because I think everything we thought we knew, we don't, apparently. Whether it be the Los Angeles Rams making the trek to Carolina and being physically beat by the Panthers, or the AFC South basically imploding, maybe is not the right term, but essentially muddied the waters entirely. It was exceptional to see how the any given Sunday mentality shows up in the NFL, and we often see outcomes we're not expecting and how it can completely change the NFL, which I think the biggest point coming out of it is this is a wide open year, gentlemen. There's no one that's dominant, and that's what makes it fun to watch week in and week out.
That's funny. A couple of weeks ago, I told Ravi, I said seeding is going to matter more now than ever, because I could see two teams winning, or I could see a team winning a couple of games in a row with a bye. I don't know who I could see winning 3 games in a row to get to the big dance. So playing one less game this year may be paramount in the grand scheme of things. But let me ask you this. Who's closest to what their record says they are? The Chicago Bears or the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I would argue the Chicago Bears, because fundamentally they do the things that travel, right, that we talk about all the time. They have a good defense that's getting healthy now. They had their entire secondary in place finally.
They take the ball away.
And they take the ball away, absolutely. And they run the football. I don't know if you guys have watched recently, but they are dominating at the line of scrimmage. When you had both DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, who's just been superb as a rookie, they both ran for 125 or more yards this past game. So when you do those things and then you start sprinkling in the things that Caleb Williams can do from a playmaking perspective, as long as he's reined in and working within the scheme overall, that team is actually very good, and I think it has what it takes to continue to win and be a legitimate threat.
So how close is Jacksonville to being 8-4? Because every week I ask our national guys, is Jacksonville good?
Well, we'll find out this coming weekend. I think it's just a gigantic game with the Colts getting a little bit and Jacksonville ascending and then them facing each other. Now, mind you, the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since, I'm trying to remember what year it was. It's like 2008. Let's put it this way. Andrew Luck was still the quarterback of the Colts at that time. That's the last time they won in Jacksonville. So to give you an idea how big that game is, but when you just look at Jacksonville, the quotes coming out of those games are almost always the same. We're happy we won, but we can be better. Well, yeah, you can. We can watch it and see that you're making mistakes, and you're not, and it's coming down to the type of plays that you need to make, but at the same time, you don't want to be in the position to make every single week. Now, they did dominate against the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are the worst team in football, but at the same time, this is the first time in 5 weeks that Trevor Lawrence didn't throw an interception. So either he's trending in the right direction, or it's just because he faced the Tennessee Titans. I don't have that answer yet, and I think we'll find it out next week against the Colts.
Okay, so let's talk about another team that is playing well, winning a decent amount, but doesn't seem like anybody really loves them. But for them, it's mostly an injury issue, and that's the 49ers. How close to actually being their record of 9-4 do you think they are?
I think they're a good team because they're well coached, right? That's something you always know with the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to be prepared. They're going to have a good game plan, and they're going to be a team that's not going to make massive blunders throughout a contest. That speaks a lot to Kyle Shanahan and his staff, but also how smart their team is as a whole. Now, obviously, as you rightly pointed out, you do not have Fred Warner. You do not have Nick Bosa. So how do you continue to progress? Now, Bosa's slack's been picked up a little bit by Bryce Huff, who's played well. And so you have that aspect. You're never going to truly replace a Fred Warner, so you just adjust. And they have a good defensive coordinator in Robert Saleh. So I am confident in their approach because we know it can be successful. Now, is it Super Bowl successful? that has yet to be proven. And considering the talent losses, probably not. But I do think they are good enough to continue on this track that they're on and to make some potential noise in the NFC.
If a team was going to tell you that they're pretty good when healthy and you thought they had a realistic shot at getting healthy, would you take Buffalo or Tampa Bay?
Ooh. Well, I would say if they could get healthy, I'd say Tampa Bay because that brings back Mike Evans, which obviously is not going to happen. I just like that team overall because they went through so much transition because of those injuries throughout the middle of this season, and yet they bounced back, right? And you have Baker Mayfield, and you now have Godwin back in your lineup, and so I think that team, and plus they're throwing touchdowns to talented left tackles, which is always a positive in my mind. So I really like Tampa, and now they have Bucky Irving back in the lineup as well. I think that's a team that can get back to where they were after sputtering for a little bit.
Let's stay in the NFC South there for a second.
I don't know if you've looked at their IR list. Tampa's incredible with what they're playing without sometimes.
100%. A team that was decimated. I mean, legitimately decimated here midway through the season, considering how well they were playing to start. But guys have stepped up, right? Whether you're talking about Ibuka or Tez Johnson. Tez Johnson is a 7th-round pick that a lot of people thought was too small and too slow to succeed in the NFL, and he's playing well. And Bucky Irvin, a lot of people thought he was too small to be an NFL running back. Look, he's an RB1 in Tampa Bay, right? They know how to identify talent, and it shows with the way they are able to compete even with those issues.
So let's stay in the NFC South there for a second. What on earth do you make of the Carolina Panthers? Obviously,
I was just going to ask about it. Speaking of wide receivers, Ted McMillan.
Ted McMillan had the big game-winning touchdown catch yesterday against the Rams. Obviously, that's a huge win, but I don't. Is it just mentally we can't get ourselves around the idea that they might be okay, or what do you see there with Carolina and their path to maybe challenging a banged-up Tampa Bay team for that NFC South title?
I don't think it's a mental block. I think it was legitimized throughout the ups and downs we've seen through Bryce Young's early portions of his career, right? Mm-hmm. While we all know that he has excelled late in games, youngest quarterback ever to help lead his team to 11 comeback victories at this point in his career, that's an amazing stat. His team believes in him, clearly. But we saw through multiple, essentially 2.5 seasons where he struggled at points. And they essentially built an offense in spite of him, right? You're handing the ball to Rico Dowdell. You're handing the ball to Chuba Hubbard. You're leaning on the offensive line. You're playing defense. You're doing everything so your quarterback doesn't have to win you the game. And it worked. But now we're starting to see that turn a little bit in the last couple of weeks. Young has played exceptionally well, and we need to acknowledge that. And as long as he continues to play in that vein, they become very dangerous. I don't know if he will because of what I said previously with his inconsistencies, but at least as of late, Young has played exceptionally well and deserves the credit for how the team's at least last 2 wins.
Brent, what's the Colts' ceiling?
Well, you got me a bit stunted on that one because it's a team that I've watched them a lot this season because of them being the surprise team in the AFC, and they have everything it takes to win at a high level, right? Considering what Daniel Jones has done, knowing how that they're ready to keep him and move forward with him, and he's played well, right? I mean, we can't question his toughness after playing with a fractured fibula this past weekend, and he wasn't the reason they lost by any means. But the concern
he was still running around.
Yes.
What the?
The touchdown throw to Tyler Warren was a rollout. To give you an idea. But to me, my concern is not doing the little things lately that's cost them games. They had Kansas City on the ropes, lost. They had an opportunity to win yesterday, lost. Now some people will say officiating was horrible. I'm not going to argue that. But when you're still making mistakes, like a missed extra point, a fumble inside the 5-yard line on a designed tush-push with your tight end, and so a drop third down pass when the game's on the line, you can't make those mistakes. especially when you're in the better part of your schedule against tougher teams, and they have. And that's really my concern. The ability and the talent is there. I think the coaching can be there, but the execution hasn't been as of late, which limits them overall.
All right, stay with me here. What is the ceiling for the Kansas City Chiefs?
The ceiling is they can still win a Super Bowl.
You think?
Will they? I absolutely do. When you've seen them play at their best this year, they've been better than any team in the NFL. The problem is that has been so rare comparative to what we're used to that it's just not feasible at this juncture. So while I say they have the ability to do it, I'm not stating that they will do so. In fact, their turnaround on how poorly they've played in close contests, 1-6 now this season, has really shown a light on maybe the inadequacies we see within their roster. Patrick Mahomes has actually played exceptionally well in recent weeks. Travis Kelce has come back alive, but yet they're still losing games. And for example, this past week, they were physically run over, and they weren't good at the point of attack. So if you're not doing those little things in the fundamentals, it doesn't matter how good you are in other areas, you are going to be inconsistent. And that's exactly what Kansas City is at this moment.
Who do you look at and say maybe they're – I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this without having it being a leading question. Who do you look at and say maybe their record is way better than you think they are?
Well, we already mentioned Jacksonville.
Sure. I thought you may say Chicago, but you like them.
I do like Chicago. If I'm leaning one way in that regard, it's probably Denver, to be quite honest with you. I like their defense.
Kind of what I thought. That's kind of who I had in mind.
Man,
I like their defense.
They're pretty good.
They are good, and there's no denying it, right? They're number one seed in the AFC right now, depending on what happens in New England tonight. But at the same time, I'm not a believer, as it were. He's played well. He's made plays late in games specifically and deserves credit there. But that offense isn't playing the best complementary football you can expect from a team that's supposed to have the best record in the NFL. And that's kind of where I have my hesitation.
Brent, if you're taking a look at like teams that kind of, we have these questions and they say, yeah, and they get the benefit of the doubt. Do you like the Eagles in the NFC or the Patriots in the AFC? If you're going to give a team the benefit of the doubt.
I would lean towards the Patriots in this instance because Philadelphia is simply not playing well, right?
Huh.
When you look at the
even they've shown you they can light switch that thing though too. You're just not buying it.
No, I mean, have they? Because they've been telling us for weeks they're going to get the offense turned around, and it hasn't happened. So, I mean, it's literally been the number one story in Philadelphia for like 6 straight weeks. So that's why I question Philadelphia. Whereas I think what I like most about New England is Mike Vrabel. And I'm saying that as a positive, knowing full well that Mike Vrabel has never elevated Tennessee to that top tier. But what Mike Vrabel does is provide a very, very high floor because he has that Belichick approach to coaching. Much like when we were discussing earlier, you know that team's going to be prepared. You know they're going to come out and play physical. You know they're going to be ready for any situation that comes up during a game because that's what type of coach he is, and that's how he sets up his team to succeed. Will they always overcome? Tennessee didn't under Vrabel. I like Drake May more obviously than Ryan Tannehill ever during that period, so he gives them a little bit of an X factor. When you put that all together, I really like what New England has done this year.
All right, let me ask you something. I don't know if this is blasphemy or not because he won a ton of Super Bowls. Which or any or all or in its totality, do you separate, we say, the Belichick way? Is this Belichick with Brady? Is this Belichick without Brady? Is this Belichick in New England differently? If I were Vrabel.
Certainly not Belichick in Carolina, right? We can all agree with that.
I don't know, like how listen, there's reverence for the greatness that Belichick was, but how do you discern which point in his career? Because he gets the all-encompassing reference, Belichick does, and I'm like, really? You know what I mean? Is that bad, or like, do I need to reevaluate that?
No, I understand. The argument's always going to be the most successful coach ever during the most difficult period to win in the NFL, right? That's what you're looking at. And his attention to detail, when Belichick was honed in and completely on his game, unlike where he is in North Carolina at the moment, no one was ever better at devising a game plan, seeing faults in other teams and exploiting them. And that's so when you say Belichickian in that regard, I think it's a positive. That's why the way I'm trying to use it in regards to Vrabel, the amount of preparation, the understanding of situational football, having his team prepared. That's the positive for Vrabel. But let's not forget, Mike Vrabel never actually coached for Bill Belichick. He played for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm. And he's he's like 84 and 104 without Brady.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. But hey, what do we say about the NFL? It's a quarterback-driven league, right? If you do not have one, you can't win. Look at Mike Tomlin.
And Vrabel's got one.
He does, absolutely. And I use Tomlin as an example because Steelers fans are very, very spoiled, and they've come to realize what life is like when you don't have a franchise quarterback, and it is not pretty. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. You can even point to Cleveland. You have the best player in the world right now, Myles Garrett, and it doesn't matter one lick. You have to have a quarterback. New England has one, and the one tie that you can say to Belichick in New England right now is Josh McDaniels. There's your real tie to Belichick, and I think he's done very well by Drake May and put that team in a position to succeed.
Okay, let me ask you this because Ravi asked me in our football group text. Well, it's multi-sport. Somebody in our group text said, "Are we sure Kevin Stefanski's a good coach?"
That was me.
Kevin Stefanski. Can we separate Stefanski with? I feel like it's wash, rinse, repeat with some of your answers about it being a quarterback-driven league, but they did move off of Mayfield pretty early.
Agreed, and I think he made a massive blunder as a coach during that entire period that led to the catastrophic decisions the organization made to move beyond Mayfield toward Deshaun Watson and so on and so forth. Because, and the reason I put the onus on the coach based on that landslide starting is, if you guys remember Baker Mayfield's final season in Cleveland, why did he play as poorly as he did? He was beat to living hell, right? His shoulder was messed up. He had a knee issue. It is a coach's responsibility to prevent a player from hurting himself. He should have pulled Baker Mayfield knowing how injured he was. He did not. He did not make that call. And he let the player make the decision because medical cleared him. That's not what you should do as a coach. So that's my biggest gripe with Kevin Stefanski since he's been in Cleveland. There's smaller things like they've literally been called for illegal procedure more times than any other team since he's been head coach. And that's the little details that just are irritating. You know, I was just lauding Mike Vrabel for having his team fully prepared. Stefanski, it's almost the opposite at times. But we can't deny he's maximized at points what talent they did have with 2 playoff runs, which in Cleveland, that's ungodly unto itself. I just don't think at this juncture, considering everything that's gone down, that they can move forward with the brain trust as it currently sits. And now, mind you, Cleveland very, very quietly moved on from Paul DePodesta, who was hired to be the big brain for that entire organization. All of a sudden, he pops up now running the Colorado Rockies.
Good pull.
So are they going to eventually move off from Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski? I think it's time because that team has been atrocious since they lost to the Houston Texans in the postseason 2 seasons ago.
Mm. That's good stuff there, Brent. Last one here for me, and I don't know, I'll let DB do his own thing. But if we're parsing through the NFC West right now, I asked you about the 49ers earlier. Haven't talked about the Seahawks yet. We only mentioned the Rams kind of in passing with their loss to the Panthers. If you're parsing through the NFC West, who do you like in that division the most, and who do you trust the most if it's a different team?
Oh, it's still the Rams, even with this past loss.
Yeah.
You're not going to have Stafford turn the ball over 3 times on a regular basis. It's just not going to happen. Furthermore, you can also throw the whole West Coast team going to the East Coast at a 1:00 game, which is never favorable to that West Coast team. And they still barely lost. In fact, they were in a position to potentially win. So I think the Rams ultimately are still the best team in football. Are they dominant? No. Are they a team that can be upset? Clearly. But at the same time, when you have Stafford playing the way he's played for the majority of the season, he is the MVP, and that team has talent everywhere. So I'm still leaning towards the Rams, although the Seahawks are doing well. They just need Darnold to get back on track. He didn't have to do much yesterday.
All right, I'm getting you out on this because I get a 2-1, and that's when it gets interesting. Who's closest to their record again? To the good or to the bad? The Seahawks at 9-3, or now the all of a sudden coaching questions about his aggressiveness, Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions at 7-5. Who's more like their record today?
I will say the Detroit Lions, because everything that I would say, and the reason why is when you live on that edge, as they do, and I love the aggressive play calling. I do. I absolutely love it. The players love it. I think you should play to win at all times. Mm-hmm. But when you're living on that edge at all times, eventually you're going to fall off that cliff, and they have this year. And because they haven't executed in those high leverage situations, hence why they have 3 more losses this year than they did all of last season. Now, don't forget, 2 brand new coordinators. You've also got Dan Campbell taking over play calling duties mid-season. They're still feeling out who they are. The talent's there. The team's basically the same, but they are different in how their approach is and how things are being executed on the field. So that's why, to me, they're more representative of that worst record this year than what we expected.
And it's interesting because the Seahawks are 5-1 on the road, Brent. They won on the road at Pittsburgh, on the road at the Cardinals, on the road at Jacksonville, on the road at Washington, and on the road at Tennessee. That smells like fool's gold. But it's winning on the road. But it is the NFL, right? Like, it's brutal to play on the road.
Yeah, and what did I say earlier? They do things that travel, right? And literally, in this conversation, they play defense and they run the football.
Well, that defense is silly aggressive. Woo.
Yeah, I love it. And when Sam Darnold is playing really well, they are very, very difficult to beat. He hasn't as of late, but when they are clicking, that team is as good as anyone in the rest of the league.
Fantastic.
That's Brent Sobleski. He's an NFL analyst for Bleacher Report. Brent, appreciate the time. As always, great stuff.
Thank you, gentlemen. Happy belated Thanksgiving, by the way.
Hey, thanks, B.
Thank you, sir. You as well. That is Brent Sobleski. Man.
There's a lot, man.
There's a lot in there.
Do the Chiefs strike you as Super Bowl caliber?
So let me just give you this real
quick.
There's a
lot. That's just the first one, because I don't know if I agree or disagree. I was just surprised that he said their ceiling is Super Bowl win.
So let me give you this.
What else do they have to accomplish? I mean, a
no.
comeback.
Like, what are they capable of?
But I mean, that's something that they haven't accomplished yet. A comeback from a
but their division has owned them.
Yeah,
like how are they going to jump?
They're probably not.
Denver and the Chargers.
So I think that's his point, though. I think on his best day, he sees them as a team that can beat 3 playoff teams in a row. He doesn't see them as a team that probably is going to get there. But I will say this, and I know this is a flawed metric, so take it for what it is.
Why are you going to give it to me?
Because I do think there is something to take from it.
Okay.
It's not a be-all, end-all. It's kind of like plus minus.
Well, don't set me up.
Let
me go from scratch.
Their point differential would not only lead their own division, but would lead 4 divisions in football.
Which is crazy because I think they're pretty good defensively.
So, like, that, when I look at that, because, I mean.
What is it?
Plus 73. Which is pretty good. It's the best in their own division.
To be 6-6, it's sensational.
It's way good to be 6-6.